Good morning, welcome back to the space between where solutions always have room to grow. I'm your growth specialist, Sean McClellan, and humble host. I'll talk to you guys today a little bit about interview I heard the other day on the Emmett show. And you guys listen to him or not, but it's a fantastic show. Lots of great interviews, lots of empowering stuff, just good positive stuff for to fill your head with. So go check him out if you've never heard of him. But he had an interview and he talked about grief and grieving the loss of a loved one. And one of his clients and best friends, Jamie Lee Ward, who was a multi-level marketer, very successful lady, died just a couple of days ago, maybe last week, a few days ago. And she had colon cancer, and by the time she found out, she was in stage 4. She didn't really want to go the chemotherapy route, so she started kind of doing the holistic approach. And you know, it's funny, like they told her she wouldn't be alive in October of this year, and she passed just about a week ago. And, you know, just her story in general about fighting as she was running a multi-million-dollar business and battling cancer and getting coaching and like all the things that she was going through, all the adversity going on in her life, she was still plowing through, man. She was still plowing through. And I think when you have that sort of determination, it doesn't really matter what's going on in your life, that you have something that's driving you to push through any barrier, no matter how big it may seem at the time. But Ed talked about a couple of things about loss, and I want to touch on that for a few minutes because, you know, I'm still going through the loss of my father just 5 months ago, and I sit there counting the months back. I'm like, God, it's only 5 months? I'll tell you what, man, it feels like an eternity without him being in my life. And he talked about a lot of stuff in regards to when people leave this earth, right? You know, he talked about his dad, you know, being in the room with him for a while after he passed, and he could see his dad, but his spirit was gone. You know, I resonate with that because I did see my father shortly after he passed, and I was in the room with him, and he was there, but his spirit was gone, and he looked so peaceful. He looked so much more peaceful than he did when he was alive because of all the suffering that he was enduring, even though he wasn't talking about it. To protect myself and my mom, I know he's probably feeling horrible. But he looked so at peace. You know, he looked so peaceful. He looked just, his shell was there, but his spirit was gone. His spirit was gone. Ed's father's spirit was gone. Jamie Lee Ward's spirit was gone. They left us. But here's the thing, guys. They also left with us a piece of them inside us because of how they touched our lives, the memories we made, and all the things that go along with things they instilled in us to make us a better person, to make us have a better relationship with them. All the lessons they taught us, they still live within us because we're still here. You know, most people you probably know, I mean, if you've ever been in an issue where there's been a death in the family and there's a lot of money to be had and all this stuff to be, you know, split up and divvied out between siblings and this, that, or the other, and people are all fighting for everything and they want all this stuff because they think it matters and blah, 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 blah. None of that matters, man. They already gave you something. They gave you a part of themselves. They gave you something that's much greater than a car, than a house, than some money. You know, there's no dollar amount that's worth 1 second of time. There really isn't. Like 1 second of time, you think, oh, that's a lot of time. Is it? One breath and you're gone. So is it? Is it really worth that? $1 million, is it worth one breath? I don't think so. Because in one breath you're here, in one breath you're not. I mean, it doesn't matter how much money you got. In one breath you can be gone in a second. You know? So don't neglect all the things that have been instilled in you from somebody that you've lost, somebody that you're grieving, because they've already given you something. It ain't about stuff. This whole world has got most people's minds twisted up about what it is to be successful, what it is to be, you know, a leader. It has nothing to do with money, nothing to do with wealth, nothing to do with a house, nothing to do with a car, nothing to do with jewelry, nothing to do with clothes, nothing to do with how many followers you have. It has everything to do with the value that you're adding and having how many people are you serving with a servant's heart without any expectation of anything to happen in return, but you just to help somebody out and help them from themselves, to empower them to live their best life, to encourage them, to be the best version of themselves, so you can be that leader for them, to fill them up, to fill your cup up. That's it. That's all it is, man. Like all these other people that you're following, all this other crap that you're watching, thinking I gotta have this and then I'll be happy. No, you won't. No, you won't. You playing the if I had game. If I had more money, if I had more followers, if I had a bigger house, if I had better car, if I had better friends, if I had more influence. All this if I had crap you're thinking, none of that matters. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, what matters, are you a good person? Are you helping people? Are you sharing your story? And are you teaching a lesson from some of the stuff you learned along the way, from all the wisdom that you've gained in your life, in order to help somebody else? That's it. All the other stuff that you're seeking, the money and all that stuff, it'll always follow you. Guess when? When you add a bunch of value and don't expect it to come, it'll come. It has no option but to come because you keep planting seeds. Row and seeping. Row. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I'm getting so excited. Sowing and reaping. What kind of seeds are you sowing today to expect a harvest? Are you even sowing seeds at all? Are you planting seeds of hope or are you planting seeds of negativity? Are you talking about ideas or are you talking about people? Which one is it? You can do a quick assessment of all the things you're talking about with your friends, your core group of friends. What are you talking about? If you're talking about people and gossiping and all that stuff, then you're not sowing anything but negativity in your life. And you can already tell what kind of harvest you're going to reap when you plant bad seeds. Thorns and thistles. It's biblical. That's what you're going to reap. Thorns and thistles. You're not going to reap anything because you plant negative seeds. Get away from people who are not toxic. Get away from negative people. Get away from negative conversations. Stop looking at negative stuff. Stop escaping through fantasy world. Stop doing all this stuff that's impacting your life. We've been so conditioned for so long to do all this stuff, to witness all this stuff. What you look at has a big deal in regards to what your life's going to be like. It influences your behavior. It influences your thoughts. It influences everything going on in your life. So what are you looking at today? What are you watching today? What are you reading? Who are you hanging around? What are you talking about? You watching the news 24/7? Yeah, that's the first thing you want to cut out of your life. I can promise you that. That is the first thing you want to cut out completely is watching the news. You need the weather? Get an app on your phone. Check it out. There you go. Problem solved. Free of charge, by the way. But if you want to work together one-on-one or join my mastermind, you guys go to linkwithsean.com anytime. We can have a conversation about that as well. I would love to help you start to grow from where you are and get away from the person that you have been, because I think there's a version of you that hasn't emerged yet, and that version is screaming at you to change, screaming at you for something different, screaming at you for a different result, screaming at you for a different bank account, screaming at you for a different friend, screaming at you for a different style of life. And you can have that, but you're going to have to start cutting some things out of your life in order for that to happen. I would love to help you. All right. I really hope the message hit you today, resonated with you about grieving the loss of a loved one and what they've left behind. They left the best parts of them inside of you because they are no longer here, but what that wisdom they instilled in you remains on in you forever. All right. And when you're ready to move on and work with me, linkwithsean.com anytime we can have a conversation. All right. Would you do me a favor also, get on over to iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, leave a rating for the show, subscribe so you don't miss a future episode. I would greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you next time on The Space Between. And just like that, another void has been filled in the space between. Hey, listen, you're obviously a podcast listener. You're listening to this podcast, which I appreciate you. Have you ever thought about launching your own? Are you somebody who feels like I've got a message, but I'm not quite clear what it is or who would ever want to hear it? Let's do this. Let's have a conversation. I'll kind of take you behind the scenes of The Space Between podcast, show you how I do it, and worst case scenario, you'll have 3 really simple steps that you can use right now to understand what your message is and how to get it out there. Go to linkwithsean.com, S-E-A-N, linkwithsean.com, book a call, pick a time that works for you, and let's have a conversation about you and your message, all right? We'll see you on the call.